So I think given we're quite a small group, it would be nice to go round the room and just do some introductions so that we know who's in the room. But as I say, I'm Social Enterprise, I'm Kim Wallace from Social Enterprise Scotland, and today we're going to talk about social enterprises. Normally we talk about social enterprises in the context of the difference that we make in our own local communities, but today we're going to look a bit further afield and think about the global impact that we can have too, and particularly through the choices we make about where and how we source products and materials. So delighted to have three speakers with us this morning. So we've got Kiera from Scottish Fair Trade, got Dorcas from ASIGE, and Ja from Jawahir Spice. So I'm going to just go around the room and do some introductions. So Carol, do you want to come in and just introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Carol Devitt. I'm the chair of the One World Centre in Dundee.
Thanks, Carol. Harriet?
It's like spot the ball when you suddenly your name is up there. Hi there, I'm Harriet Dodd. I'm a leadership and business coach globally. So that's why I'm here really, because I'm really interested in this global dimension. My company's called Top Hat Discovery, based in Edinburgh. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Harriet. Lorna?
I'm just part of Orkney Fair Trade Group. I'm chair at the moment of Orkney Fair Trade Group.
Thanks, Lorna.
Okay.
Joanna?
Hello, I'm Johanna. I'm from Aberdeenshire Council, Sustainability and Climate Change Officer. I actually just started my role yesterday. So yeah, excited to learn all about fair trade.
Amazing, welcome. Tista?
Hi, my name is Tista. I work as an independent consultant from India on social enterprise and impact investing.
Amazing, welcome. And Mary?
Good morning. I am a PhD researcher. I've been working with Scottish Fair Trade, their archives that they have, and another whole collection of things across Scotland to sort of track the fair trade story. So I'm just here to listen in to the connections with social enterprise.
Thank you. And Jane, do you want to say hello?
I'd forgotten it would come to me. Hello everyone, I'm Jane. I work with Kim at Social Enterprise Scotland.
Amazing, thanks Jane. And I think, is that everybody said hello? Yeah. Okay. So as I said, we're really pleased to be joined by our three speakers this morning, and they're going to share their experience and perspectives on fair trade, ethical sourcing, and what it means to build supply chains based in fairness, transparency, and genuine partnership. And as I said, after we've heard them speak, we can open up for some questions and discussion. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Kiera from Scottish Trade Fair Trade even.
Thank you very much. So it's always multiple windows on my little laptop screen. Okay, thank you all for your time and for joining today. So I suppose before we get into the practical side of fair trade and social enterprise, I just wanted to take a moment to introduce Scottish Fair Trade and, more importantly, fair trade, the kind of movement as a whole. So we are a charity and membership organisation. And our role is to support and grow Scotland's fair trade movement and really campaign for a fairer, more sustainable trading system. So the movement is much bigger than just the logo that you might see on a packet of coffee. Scotland is a fair trade nation, so that means that fair trade is something that involves people and organisations right across Scottish society. So Scottish Fair Trade members, for example, include social enterprises, businesses, local authorities, universities, and also community groups, campaigners, and lots of young people as well. So some are working to change how they source and buy products. Some are kind of working to educate their communities, and some are campaigning for real changes as to how our global economy works. So you might see fair trade in a school or a workplace, in a cafe, in a local campaign, and also in the kind of products that businesses choose to sell as well. So I think the breadth is really important, because fair trade isn't simply just about, choosing the right products, but it is really about challenging these unfair trading systems and asking what trade would look like if people producing the things that we buy and the planet we all depend on were all valued properly. So I think what's particularly relevant when we talk about social enterprise is because social enterprises are already asking many of the same questions around who benefits from the economy, where value sits, how we treat people, and how we create social and environmental impact through the way that we do business. So I've just popped the principles, there it is, 10 principles of fair trade up here to help us just get on the same page in terms of understanding what fair trade means. So it's not just about opportunities for disadvantaged producers, but it is also about climate action, gender justice, and real transparency in the way people do business as well. So I've just popped, you can see the fair trade logo on the bottom right here. So that's the one you might recognize from supermarkets. So it's designed for global commodities like tea, coffee, sugar, whereas the logo that sits above, the World Fair Trade Organization, this model is for fair trade social enterprises around the world who are committed to embedding these fair trade principles into their business and operations. So there are different kind of fair trade options depending on the kind of scale and the needs of the enterprises. So in terms of today, I think Kim mentioned at the beginning there, most social enterprises think very carefully about the impact that they create in Scotland. But we'd like to ask how many of us think about the impact that our purchasing decisions have around the world. So we know that every organisation has a supply chain, whether they buy kind of tea, coffee, uniforms, merchandise, maybe office supplies or products for resale, etc. And we also know that there are many issues in supply chains relating to things like greenwashing, human rights abuses, unfair pay and working conditions, and these kind of extractive and exploitative trade as well. And I think there is an interesting connection here with the conversation around community wealth building. So we know that community wealth building is a real focus at the moment, especially in Scotland, where it's about kind of creating an economy where wealth and opportunity are retained within communities, where local people rightly have more influence and control. And it's really thinking about where the value created by economic activity, kind of how that can benefit the community. And for us, fair trade asks a very similar question, but from an international perspective. So when we buy something, who is it that's benefiting from that transaction? Where is the value created? Where does it go? And who has the power to make decisions? So just as we're thinking about kind of community wealth building, fair trade encourages us to think about those communities and workers involved in the products and services that we buy kind of every day from around the world. And the good news is, I think for us, there's a really interesting opportunity for social enterprise. So to think about impact, not just through kind of what we might deliver in Scotland, but as I say, how we spend our money and how we can kind of support the economy that we want to see. So in terms of if you've got your own social enterprise or your own organisation, we very much don't think that you need to kind of transform your supply chain overnight, but there's some really practical things that social enterprises can start doing now to address some of these issues. So for us, when we talk about kind of ethical sourcing, I suppose more broadly, doesn't have to be about overhauling everything. It can just start with being a bit more intentional about who you're buying from, what you buy, and what you know about the supply chain behind it. So that might be starting by asking better questions of your suppliers. Who made this? Where did it come from? What do we know about the conditions under which it was produced? And is there any verification to that? And you can then start to kind of build those questions into your normal purchasing processes. So it might be developing a kind of supplier self-assessment form that helps you understand kind of how they operate and what kind of working conditions or environmental practices kind of look like across the supply chain. It can also help to identify where you've got the kind of greatest risk or the greatest opportunity to make a difference. So you might look at particular product categories and kind of ask what are the biggest issues, or where could we use our purchasing power to kind of drive positive change. And then I think a really important one for us is that rather than looking at price in isolation when it comes to purchasing decisions, you can really think about what value for money actually means. So you could develop a kind of sourcing matrix, which considers, of course, cost, but also things like ethical credentials, environmental impact, and social value as well. And it's about working with your suppliers too, and really trying to kind of improve things across the board. So I think what links back to the kind of wider fair trade movement is it's not just about helping organisations in Scotland make better purchasing decisions, but we're also working with producers and social enterprises internationally to help them strengthen their business and try to support them to access markets here in the UK. So in that sense, there's kind of work to do on both sides of the supply chain, helping buyers make more responsible choices while also creating more opportunities for producers to benefit fairly from trade. So I just wanted to bring the kind of international side of our work to life a little bit more. So we're very fortunate at Scottish Fair Trade to work with fair trade social enterprises around the world who are very often looking to access markets here in Scotland and the rest of the UK. So one example that I just wanted to touch upon is our Scale Fair Trade Malawi project, where we've been working with World Fair Trade Organization Africa to support Malawian social enterprises to kind of develop their products, their branding, their positioning to become more export ready. And our role at Scottish Fair Trade has been really trying to connect them in with Scottish and UK buyers. So for example, we've had kind of buyer insight sessions where we've had a range of kind of ethical shops, ethical retailers come together, review the products that they have available and feedback on what they think would really land in the market that they're working with. You can see some of the photos here of the different businesses. And one that I can draw your attention to is Kabebe. That's the third one in there. So they're a Malawian social enterprise. They produce all sorts of handmade products like sunglasses cases, baby toys, great beach bags. They also do conference lanyards if anyone's ever looking for any of those. But they basically support refugees in Zaleka refugee camp in the Longway. So refugees there kind of by government law can't can't be employed in Malawi essentially. So this opportunity gives them a chance to earn a living through artisanship and through the craft skills that they have. So these are businesses that, like many social enterprises in Scotland, are creating social and economic impact in their own communities. They're creating jobs, they're supporting those producers and artisans, and really developing great products with, of course, like a really strong social purpose as well. But I think what's becoming clearer for us in our work is that obviously you can have great products, but that doesn't necessarily automatically grant you access to an international market. And I think that's where we really try to connect these two sides of the conversation, in that social enterprises here can think about who they buy from and the impact of their supply chains, while fair trade enterprises internationally really need businesses willing to look beyond the easiest or cheapest option and really think about how to build those fairer trading relationships. And think about, the relationships behind the products we buy. So if anything, I feel like I've hopefully given you a bit of a whistle-stop tour as to how fair trade and social enterprise kind of complement each other and how you can think about ethical sourcing in terms of your own organisation. But if there's anything we've talked about today that's prompted you to think differently about your own organisation or supply chain, There's lots of different ways that you can get involved. So as I said, we are a membership organisation, so you're very welcome to join us as a member of Scottish Fair Trade and join the wider fair trade movement in Scotland. But we can also help if you've got any kind of concerns around your own ethical sourcing, and we can help to kind of review your current approach, develop tools with you, or engage suppliers. And we can also provide some sort of learning and training for staff and teams as well, whether that's a kind of introduction to fair trade or some more in-depth stuff around ethical sourcing, if that's of interest. But I will pop my email in the chat in case that's of help. But thank you very much.
Amazing. Thanks very much, Kiera. Unless anybody's got a burning question for right now for Kiera, we'll pause the questions for now and take them at the end of the speaking sessions. So without any further ado, I'm just looking for Dorcas on. Dorcas, still with us? Yep. Do you want to introduce yourself and ASIGE?
Yes, good morning to you all. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today. It is an honor to speak with people who believe that fair trade today can be a force to justice, dignity, and lasting change. My name is Dorcas Apoore, and I'm the founder and CEO of ASIGE. At ASIGE, what we do is that we produce sustainable products mainly from elephant grass and from natural different colors. And we are also a social enterprise based in Edinburgh and also in Ghana, whilst creating opportunities for economic independence for women and young people. I'm here today to tell you more about ASIGE and the women or everyone behind the pieces that we produce, that we have in our shops and also in our homes. And so from our very beginning as ASIGE, when ASIGE was born from my very personal experience, because when I was growing up in the northern part of Ghana, I saw an opportunity that women have the skills, an incredible skill that passes down from generations to generations, that we could use it and also utilize our main local resources that can be found in Ghana, that we can produce beautiful products that are capable of replacing everyday single-use plastics that we know that the world is currently facing. So that is where, and despite these challenges, these talents and skills that everyone possesses in their homes and in communities, they didn't have that opportunity to translate this skill into an actual product that we are having. So I keep on asking myself a simple question. So what if I come up with an opportunity that would help these women to translate their skills and earn better income to stay at homes instead of traveling to city centers to street hawk whilst leaving their children to drop out of school? So this question then translated to ASIGE. So ASIGE was born far away in the northern part of Ghana in 2014 by myself. And we started with a simple vision, just to making women acquire sustainable skills whilst we trade based on fairness. So it has not been easy coming this far, but it's worth it seeing today that the women we work with, we give them smiles. So we started with less than 30 women. And as I speak with you today, we are working with across 7 communities in Ghana of over 450 women. And some of these women that are behind our products, some of them are widows, some of them are single mothers, some of them are grandmothers caring for their orphanage grandchildren, and others are young people that are determined to build a future that looks different from what they have inherited from their parents. So although these people that we work with, their stories differ from one person to the other, but what we are looking forward for is a chance to create an honest living with dignity that everyone can change their story. So the women that work with us, some of them giving testimony as when ASIGE came into being, they don't see ASIGE just to work just to earn a skill, but what they see more or less of ASIGE is they have seen school fees for their children, they've seen food on the tables, and they have also seen hope that they can gain. So this sentence has stayed with me from like over 2-3 years now, and that keeps me going that, okay, we can still do something for the people in our communities. But just like Kiera mentioned earlier, that fair trade is not really about the product, or it's not, neither is about the price. It is about the possibilities that we can create in our communities. It is about the income that we can create through the skill that we have. And it is about the choices, the right choices that we make that can really change this life in our community. So if you ask us what fair trade means to us at ASIGE, for us it means more than just paying a fair price. Like she said, the relationship that we build, and that relationship is based on trust. It's based on you listening carefully to the people in the community. What do they really want? Do they actually get the benefits that fair trade stands for? And recognizing the steps like Scottish Fair Trade is currently taking to connect with the local people to get that benefit. Same thing as ASIGE is doing. So we recognizing this and putting everyone as part of the ASIGE journey, not just simply an artisan, a supplier, or a partner, but we, all of us, coming together and sharing a common value is what we are looking for. So at ASIGE, we believe in not just rescuing communities, but we believe that they need opportunities. So our role is to work with our artisans, helping them to strengthen their skills, produce quality products, and develop new designs and work. That's why in Scotland, we are currently working with international tartans to producing tartans and mixing these tartans with our elephant grass in Ghana. So we work with rural part in Edinburgh with women to produce tartans, and also rural part in Ghana. So these two rural areas comes up with a single product, and this single product is demanding worldwide. So this is what we are looking into. And we look at, if the artisans succeed, ASIGE also succeed. So our work is shared, not just for the story of ASIGE, or not just for the story of our artisans, but also we bring in the customer. So lessons that we have learned over the years is that the first thing is about relationship. As I said, you have to build the relationship before the transaction comes in. So the strongest partnership we have built from buyers is the buyers who are interested in asking more, finding more about where the products are coming from. They listen, they understand every piece, and they ask questions: who make these products? So that builds the confidence and the relationship that we have with the artisans. And our process of telling this story also strengthen the trust for customers, not just to purchase once, but to keep on coming to us and knowing that whatever their money is going into is going to create changes in the community. So our artisans also know the plan that we have ahead. The partners value their long-term collaborations rather than just to come off one and then buy. The second lesson is trust. As I said, it shouldn't be a rush thing. Trust is built very slowly, and then it grows from honesty. And then we also keep on our promises. So when you place an order with us, we tell you that we can deliver in 3 months. 3 month time, we are delivering. If you are unable to deliver, we tell you that this is the problem, and the customer knows what is going on with the product. So that's really important. So with that amount of time, that gives them the length to either trust you or not to trust you. And that's where the fair payment comes in. And our third lesson is sustainability. It's about the people as much as about the environment. As we are talking, that's fair trade about. And yes, we source everything about environment. We use elephant grass from the land, and we work with smallholder farmers to source this elephant grass. We use our colors from millet leaves, hibiscus flowers, and other natural colors. So we encourage traditional techniques, the techniques that we have locally, we encourage that to use so that we can minimize the waste that we have. So sustainability is about ensuring that the women we work with continue to earn a living through even from now to 10 years. And it also means that the people should see into the future their hand skills instead of throwing those away, and also protecting the environment using our products so that we can have our generations come on and it continues, and also preserving our culture to creating more opportunities. So why then is partnership important? One of the greatest gifts that we have received as ASIGE is about working with organizations, working with customers who believe in ethical trade. So partnership shows that trade is not just a charity, but it is a good business. So it creates better products for our artisans to have time and also to have confidence to build in more abilities to come up with more quality products. And it creates lasting impact because everyone benefits, all ends benefit. So the buyer receive authentic products from us, and we also receive feedback that encourage us to keep on going. And the artisans also earn income. They gain stability in their families, and their communities continue to grow stronger. So that's why sustainability in trees looks like for ASIGE. Looking ahead, what I have to say today is that as customers, as partners, as we become more and more conscious about where products comes from and what it makes, I believe that there will never be more important than time for fair trade. So people want to know the story. What I'm simply saying is that people want to know the story behind what they buy now, because people are very conscious of what they consume. And the stories at ASIGE we have, as I told you earlier, everyone has a story, different story, but our stories are of resilience, creativity, perseverance, and also hope. So before I take my seat, I would like to encourage everyone to choose fair trade. If you are choosing fair trade, you are not just choosing the product that you are consuming, but you are honoring the hands that make those products. You are also honoring the women and the young people that works in rural communities that spend hours not just making baskets, but whatever handicraft that they are making. You are honoring those hands. And you are also honoring generation of knowledge and craftsmanship. You are also acknowledging and preserving sustainability, preserving the environment for future generations. So on behalf of ASIGE and everyone that's involved in ASIGE, who makes ASIGE a family now, we say a very big thank you. But I want to encourage all of us that together we are providing that fair trade. And the fair trade that we want to see is more than just a commerce, a trade. It is a partnership, it is an empowerment, and it is a hope. Thank you so much if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Dorcas. I could listen to you all day. And am I seeing you're displaying some of your fantastic products behind you? Yep, so you're walking the talk with your products sitting behind you there, and I see Kiera's just posted a link to your website in the chat as well, so I would encourage everybody to go and have a look at some of ASIGE's lovely products online. Thank you, Dorcas. Now, the Empowering Women for Change lady had her hand up for a wee while. Do you want to come in? And I can see we've got some other questions coming through in the chat for after our next speaker, but did you want to come in?
Yeah, hello. My name is Asma Abdullah. I'm the CEO of Empower Women for Change. We are an organization based in Glasgow, but we work nationally in Scotland. But also we have some international development work. We work in Sudan, and we have women organization. Of course, we were working mainly to support women to build their sustainability and resilience, but then the war came, and now we are working in relief and humanitarian aid and stuff like that. But here in Scotland, we work to encourage women ethnic minority women to build their sustainability and resilience. One of the most important area we work with is entrepreneurship. So we help people to set up their social enterprise or private businesses. We work with different partners. So, and unfortunately, we missed the first presentation, and I hope maybe you will send it to us. We are very interested in joining the fair trade, all the organization, and joining the lovely lady who just presented from Ghana. So looking forward to work with you all.
Oh, thank you, and thanks for joining today's session. Kiera the first speaker had some slides which we will circulate after the session today, and I'll make sure that there's contact details for people to connect after the session. Thank you. So last but definitely not least, I'd like to invite Ja from Ujamaa Spice to tell us a bit more about Ujamaa Spice. Ja?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So can everyone see my slide? I'm assuming you can. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So hi, everyone. I am Jawahir, and I'm the founder of Ujamaa Spice, which is based right here in Edinburgh. So I was born in Zanzibar. It's an island that's very famous for in the world for its spices. Growing up, things like cloves, cinnamon, and nutmeg were just part of everyday life. But as I got older, I realized something just didn't quite add up. Zanzibar has one of the world's strongest reputations for spices, yet many of the people growing them weren't really sharing in that value. And this basically made me just ask a very simple question, which was, what if the people growing these incredible products weren't simply suppliers, but valued partners? And from that, Ujamaa Spice was born. Amazing. So people often agree with the idea of fair trade, but then they ask, what does that actually look like in practice? Now, for us, it means shortening the distance between the people growing the spices and the businesses that are buying them. It means working directly with smallholder farmers in Zanzibar rather than through multiple intermediaries. And it means supporting women growers, helping establish women cooperatives, and investing in long-term opportunities rather than one-off purchases. Most importantly, it means knowing where every spice comes from and who produces it. Because when you know the people behind the product, you are able to make very different decisions. Of course, building a business this way comes with a lot of challenges and lessons for myself. And one of the biggest lessons for me has been that ethical sourcing doesn't really remove commercial pressures. If anything, it adds new ones, such as the ones that I've put there. For example, consumers have become used to incredibly low prices. Businesses are, of course, under pressure to reduce costs. And you're often asking buyers to think about value in a completely different way. Some of our conversations begin with a lot of excitement about our story, but then they often end with discussions about price, which is very common. And I feel organizations like Scottish Fair Trade are able to come in and just help navigate conversations like that and just help you think better about those things. And again, very, very understandable, but it just reminds me that creating change isn't only about working with producers, it's also about helping markets value what they're actually buying. Now, if I had to choose one lesson from this journey, it would be this. The best ideas rarely come from sitting behind a desk. They come from listening. Some of the most valuable conversations that I've had have been on farms in Zanzibar, asking questions rather than arriving with solutions to the farmers. The people growing the spices understand their lands, their crops, and their communities better than anyone else, and our role isn't to tell them what to do. It's to create opportunities that allow that expertise to be recognized and rewarded. And I've realized that the strongest businesses aren't built by having all of the answers. Rather, they're built by asking better questions, which we are striving to do every single day at Ujamaa Spice. Now, the three things that I would want you to take away from all this is, first, ask more questions about the products that you're buying, not just what they cost, but where they come from and who produced them. Second is think about suppliers as long-term partners and collaborators rather than short-term transactions. And finally, remember that impact doesn't always require huge changes. Sometimes it's small decisions such as choosing transparency, investing in relationships, and looking beyond price. That creates the biggest difference over time, not only for yourselves, but all the small suppliers that you'd be working with. And for me, it's the farmers. Now, I will finish with just one more thought. Every product has a story and it has a journey, as Dorcas has told us. So for spices, that journey might begin on a very small farm in Zanzibar before ending on a kitchen shelf right here in Scotland. The decisions we make along that journey determine who benefits from it. And my hope is that more businesses continue asking not just what are we buying, but what kind of system are we supporting when we buy it? Because behind every product is a person. And when we remember that, we make better decisions for businesses, for producers, and ultimately for all of us. My presentation was a lot shorter than Dorcas, but thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Very much, Jan. That was great, and we put a wee link to Ujamaa Spice in the chat as well, so folk can go on and see a wee bit more about what you've got on there. So we do have some questions. There's one for you, Ja, from Tista around who are your buyers and the demand. Can you share a link?
Buyers from like Ujamaa, who's buying from me, or?
Did you want to come in there and just clarify what you were looking for?
So, Jawahir, I wanted to know who are your buyers? I mean, who are buying these spices and how do you go about with it? And if you're selling it to the external export market, there is tariffs and all those things also. So how do you go about with those, Because
So I have two avenues. I have B2C, which is selling directly to consumers on my website. So that's your everyday person like me and you. And then on the other side, I am actually selling to businesses such as Diageo is one of the big ones. That's one of my clients that I'm working with. We're also working with Kiera Group, which is a global procurement company, and then some restaurants in Scotland, but also the majority of them are actually down south in London. And I source directly from Zanzibar to Scotland. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. We've got a question here. I think we'll go, Dorcas, for you first, maybe to answer this one. How do you address the question of business case to truly make the trade and social enterprise work? So Gazel's saying, in our experience, like our other colleagues as well, there's a range of challenges one faces while working with the private sector, from layers of management-related decisions to long-term investment that's not project or certification-based.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Kim?
Yes. Did you hear the question?
Yeah, please, can you take the question again?
Sure. So how do you address the question of business case to truly make fair trade and social enterprise work? Gazal, who's asking the question, saying in their experience, there's a range of challenges that are faced while working with the private sector, from layers of management-related decisions to long-term investment that's not project or certification-based.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. How to manage with social enterprise and fair trade certification. I think there are multiple ways you can do this. First of all, you have to look at your company vision. What vision from the initial beginning, what vision are you looking towards? Are you a social enterprise in nature? Yes, fine. What vision is fair trade stands for? Does your business work with the fair trade principle, the 10 principles that fair trade has? Are you working with those principles? So considering your social enterprise nature as you are reinvesting back into your business, or you are reinvesting back into the people in your community as a social enterprise, and the fair trade principle as prioritizing people and planet first. So tying these two together, how then do you consider? So I think all this looks at the activities that you do within your enterprise. What activities are you doing within your enterprise, and how are you tying this together? So at ASIGE, we are a social enterprise. What we do is that we work with rural women in our communities, and we produce products. We sell these products. The profit we make, 10% of the products goes into support our community programs. So for example, one of our community programs we are supporting is vocational skills training. We have been able to enroll 100 young people into vocational skills training, of which 50 of these young people have graduated and also supporting additional 2 each, whilst 50 of them are yet to come. So you see that the multiplier effect is real. And on the fair trade aspect of the work is to also concentrate on people and the planet. So you are not just looking at, okay, impacting the lives of people or changing or keeping the planet safe, but we also look at going with this principle, how then do we ensure that people are ending what they end, or the products that are coming, they're actually protecting the environment. So we look at fair income. So working with our partners, those who are sourcing our product or those who are buying our products to sell in other countries, in Europe, in Asia, in the UK, or in the US, we work with them to ensure that they're also going with this trend line. So as they buy from us, they also donate to support the community. So in one way or the other, you are not just doing it by yourself, but you are doing it through a partnership, and you are supporting the community, you are prioritizing the people, and you're also looking at the environment. Now, talking about the private sector partnership. Yes, I know sometimes there are challenges. The private sector partnership, sometimes some companies comes and their motive is just to make profit. So if they invest money in you, they just look at the profit that they will make. However, there are also other private sectors that also consider fair trade, that also consider the social impact of it, because they want to invest money and they are happy to impact lives in their community. So I think on the fair trade aspect, you have to look into it, because if you don't look into the investment readiness or the private sector and you just jump into any company at all, I think you'll be having problems. So we prioritize which company has interest on people, which company follows the fair trade principles, even if they are not fair trade company, but they accept and they are ready to work with whatever principles that you are working in supporting people and the environment. I hope I have answered your question.
Thank you, Dorcas. Kiera, did you want to come in on that one as well, just from your perspective?
Yeah, I suppose so. When we're talking about ethical sourcing to different businesses or even to public sector kind of organizations as well, it's kind of how can you make the business case, or how to convince people of perhaps, you know, paying a little bit more for those products. But I think one of the things that we see a lot, I mean, first of all, to start on the negative and then to go to the positives, reducing risk is something that we talk about a lot. So having greater supply chain transparency helps to protect you from, you know, unwanted surprises down the line. So that's something that we would mention. There's also the piece around market differentiation, which is becoming more important. So what makes you distinctive as an enterprise? I mean, hearing from ASIGE and Ujamaa, you know, there's such unique, incredible stories that others don't have. So I guess the business case for being able to differentiate yourself from others is very important. And I think living your values too. So even if we're thinking about, for example, we recently worked with Association for Cultural Enterprises, so kind of museums and galleries and things. And these are enterprises that obviously values are so important to these kinds of institutions. And if you're thinking about ethical sourcing, how can you show that you're living your values? And this is one way of doing it. So I guess it depends who the kind of the target clients are, etc. But I think there's lots of business case kind of answers to be had there. That helps to answer that one.
Thanks, Kiera. And Jad, did you have anything to add on that? I know you've done a fair bit of work with private sector as well.
I feel like Dorcas and Kiera have touched up on everything. Yeah.
Thank you. Harriet, I see you put a couple of things in the chat. Did you want to come in?
Thanks. And mine wasn't over. I'm just really interested. There are two things, Kiera. One was around, what volume fair trade has in the UK economy now, and is there a trend upwards, or are you a bit worried about it? And I suppose related to that, and related to the previous question really, is how does fair trade link with the Better Business Act, the B Corp stuff? You're here with social enterprise. It seems to me that there's a political movement that needs to be had around this human to human consumer and buyer thing. And it was a question really about, so a secondary question around what can we do?
Yeah, absolutely. So to start with the first one, in terms of the volume of fair trade goods, we would love to know the exact statistics on this, but it's very difficult data to obtain, partly because you've got the kind of fair trade one word certification, but you've also got other fair trade verifications and things which makes it more difficult to track. However, if we're going off of fair trade one word, so the fair trade logos kind of statistics, it shows that it is the kind of volume of goods and the consumption is staying steady, if not gradually increasing over time. So it is staying steady. But I think one of the things that we found is that is kind of in commodities especially. So we also found that sometimes you can have products where it is fair trade certified, but it might not say on the label. So there's lots of things like that. But essentially it is staying strong for key categories is there. And we are seeing in terms of, I think ethical business is becoming more popular, and we can see even among young consumers that buying from an ethical business is becoming more important to them. So we're hoping that that will also translate into kind of continued increase in consumption and production of fair trade goods going forward too. In relation to your second question, yeah, I mean, for us at Scottish Fair Trade, it's something that we are focusing on. So always need to make sure. So the Business, Human Rights and Environment Act that is being proposed to Westminster is something that we're very supportive of, kind of keeping engaged with the Corporate Justice Coalition, and then also in Scotland, kind of keeping abreast of the various kind of policy changes that are going on there. So I think there's a lot of work across the sector, like with Social Enterprise Scotland and with kind of others, that we're really trying to build a movement that's broader than just the fair trade logo, and really thinking about these bigger questions of how can we protect human rights and do better business and change these unfair trading systems.
Thanks, Kiera. I'm conscious of time, so has anybody else got a question that they really want to ask, or I might just finish us with a wee question for our three speakers. My colleague Jane's going to post just a really short evaluation in the chat, I think, if folk wouldn't mind just taking 30 seconds to fill that in. It just helps us in terms of our events going forward, and really good to get some feedback on these sessions. So I think I'd like to ask, I guess, Kiera, Dorcas and Ja, if we were having this conversation 5 years from now, what change would you most like to see in the way that social enterprises think about global sourcing and fair trade? Who wants to go first?
You could pick on one of us, or I could just have a
You've kind of volunteered yourself there, Kiera.
I think for me, I'll try and answer it succinctly, but I think it's just making these connections, because I think a lot of the time I feel like we've still got some work to do in terms of bringing the fantastic kind of social enterprise movement in Scotland, just trying to engage more international social enterprises and to really see kind of those supply chains in action. If we were able to not only have kind of community wealth building in Scotland, but if social enterprises were sourcing very regularly from other international social enterprises around the world, I think that would be something I'd love to see.
Ja, what about you? What could we do better in 5 years' time?
I think Kiera said everything, but definitely the international aspect, because, you know, being around a lot of like social enterprise individuals and even going to SEWF, I felt like there was a lot of conversation about supporting local and being local and all that. But if there's just more support for international organizations like ourselves, I think that would be a great change for us as well. It will feel like we're also being brought into the conversation better. Yeah.
Thank you. Dorcas, anything to add?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I feel like if I want to see one change that social enterprise could do is about partnership. So if social enterprise could bring social enterprises, not just in Scotland, but across the globe, whichever region that we could tap into, so that we can come together as young people to discuss and then to form long-term partnership, and to also have voices to stay at the governmental level, so that we will create sort kind of long-term sustainability instead of working on short-term projects. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dorcas. Okie dokie, does anybody have any final questions, thoughts, comments? No, all good. We will share the slides that Kiera and Ja presented earlier on. We'll include the links to the various websites, so Ujamaa Spice and ASIGE. And please do, as I say, have a look on those websites and maybe even make some purchases. But thanks very much for joining us this morning. We'll get those slides and things circulated later today. And yeah, thanks for joining us this morning, and thanks to our three speakers, Kiera, Jan, Dorcas. Thank you.
Thank you.